NYPD Blue is widely considered one of the greatest cop shows of all time. It ran 12 seasons and 261 episodes, winning 20 Emmys along the way, and there was drama with this show from day one. From network affiliates refusing to air the pilot, to the ugly exit of its star after just one season, to an unconventional head writer who drove everyone mad, with one man who wasn't supposed to last beyond episode 1 becoming the unexpected leading man holding it all together. This is the rise, the drama, and the legacy of NYPD Blue, the show that survived pretty much everything. Now, before we start, give this video a like if you watched NYPD Blue back in the day, and subscribe for more retro TV deep dives. Okay, let's go back to the start, and a man you've probably heard of, Steven Bochco. By the early 90s, Bochco was arguably the most powerful producer in television. He'd made Hill Street Blues, he'd made LA Law. The man seemed unstoppable. But then he made Cop Rock, which was basically Glee for the criminal justice system, and it was soundly rejected by American viewers and canceled after just one season. But instead of running and hiding after that disaster, he went back to the lab. He teamed up with a writer named David Milch, and the two of them cooked up something bold for network TV. The idea was this: take a cop show, a format everyone was comfortable with, and crank up the volume. More realistic language, add in some nudity, use handheld cameras, and have cops whose personal lives were as broken as the streets they worked. Bochco wanted, in his words, to tell adult stories to adults in an adult manner. And since he had a deal with ABC that was essentially a blank check to make 10 projects of his choosing, how do you think Cop Rock got the green light? ABC said yes. Next up was casting, and the centerpiece was David Caruso. Bochco had worked with him on Hill Street Blues, where he had a recurring role. Now, Bochco knew he was a phenomenal talent, but Milch, well, he had his reservations. He had a closed-door meeting with Bochco where he said, almost verbatim, "Don't do this to me. Trust me. I'm crazy, I know crazy, and he's crazy." But Caruso was so compelling that Bochco decided to hire him. He got the role of Detective John Kelly, the handsome, brooding lead, and the entire first season revolved around his job and his messy love life. As for the guy who would end up becoming the guy, he didn't really want the part. Dennis Franz had already played a number of cop roles by the time Bochco called him, including 2 roles on Hill Street Blues, and he was kind of sick of it. But he respected Bochco and said yes before a word of dialogue had been written, which was a massive leap of faith. And here's what's crazy. His character, Andy Sipowicz, wasn't supposed to survive the pilot. He was written in as a drunk, bigoted cop with basically no redeeming qualities who gets shot up by a mobster in the first episode, and the original plan was for him to die. But once Bochco and Milch saw his performance, they realized the show needed him and changed the ending of the pilot to keep him alive, which, as we'll find out, ended up being one of the best pivots in TV history. As for the rest of the cast, James McDaniel, fresh off Cop Rock, hopped right back on the Bochco train to play Lieutenant Arthur Fancy. Sherry Stringfield, who'd previously acted on the soap opera Guiding Light, was cast as prosecutor Laura Michaels, Kelly's ex-wife. Amy Brenneman, a Harvard-trained theater actress, played Officer Janice LaCalci, and Nicholas Turturro, the kid brother of John Turturro, who I'll always remember as the foot fetish butler from Mr. Deeds, played Officer James Martinez. Sharon Lawrence came on as a guest star in episode 1, playing prosecutor Sylvia Costas. The role was originally written for a man, but it got rewritten and expanded into a main cast part once producers saw her chemistry with Franz. And season 2 main cast members Gordon Clapp and Gail O'Grady would join as part of the season 1 recurring cast as Senior Detective Greg Medavoy and PAA Donna Abandando. NYPD Blue had its cast, and then came the firestorm. When word got out about the kind of show Bochco was planning, with all of the foul language and nudity, religious groups and family organizations called for boycotts and leaned hard on advertisers. It got to the point where a big chunk of ABC's own affiliate stations flat out refused to carry the premiere. 57 of ABC's roughly 225 stations preempted the pilot, mostly in smaller conservative southern markets. One station, WLOX in Biloxi, Mississippi, never aired a single episode of the show. So NYPD Blue became the most controversial show on television before it even premiered on September 21st, 1993. But despite dozens of stations refusing to carry it, the pilot pulled in a whopping 22.8 million viewers. And yeah, it immediately did all the stuff everyone was afraid of. Bare backsides, blistering language, and there's a famous scene in that first episode where Sipowicz tells off Sharon Lawrence's Sylvia Costas with a crotch grab and a line I'm not going to repeat here, but one that TV Guide later put on its list of the most memorable moments in TV history. And audiences loved all of it. By the end of its first season, NYPD Blue finished in the Nielsen Top 20 and pulled a record 26 Emmy nominations. Franz won his first Emmy for lead actor. The show that a chunk of America tried to ban was suddenly one of the most acclaimed programs on television, and its star, David Caruso, was on top of the world. He was arguably the most popular actor on television. He won the Golden Globe for Best Actor in 1994 and was seen as a sex symbol, with the press describing him as the hottest redhead to hit TV since Lucille Ball. And with his ego inflated, he decided he should have the bank account to match. According to the producers, Caruso demanded a massive raise, reportedly from around $40,000 an episode to something close to $100,000, plus time off during the season to go shoot movies, plus. And between that and his behavior on set throughout season 1, Milch and Bochco decided they were done with him. Caruso was gone. Now, he agreed to film 4 more episodes in season 2 to wrap up his character, with Detective Kelly being forced to resign from the NYPD after hampering the investigation to protect his lover, Officer Janice LaCalci, who killed a mob boss. And that gave the producers time to cast his replacement, Bobby Simone, played by Jimmy Smits, who joined the show in episode 5 of season 2. Now, losing your lead actor after 1 season is typically the kind of thing that wrecks a show. But the opposite happened. Once the details of Caruso's exit became public, the tripled salary and the 38-foot trailer and all the other demands, the reaction was overwhelmingly hostile toward the actor and not the show. Caruso was labeled an arrogant, greedy rat, and fans felt so betrayed that many of them actively rooted for his upcoming film career to fail. And behind the scenes, the cast and crew felt a sense of relief. Bochco later described Caruso's volatile, moody behavior on set as cancerous, a sentiment punctuated when he reportedly snubbed his colleagues and walked off the lot on his final day without saying a single goodbye. With fewer distractions on set and all the ire pointed at Caruso, NYPD Blue soared. Gordon Clapp, Sharon Lawrence, and Gail O'Grady all became main cast members. The show climbed to number 7 in the ratings, the single highest ranking of its whole run, and it won the Primetime Emmy for Outstanding Drama Series. And over the next 3 seasons, the show continued to dominate. Through seasons 3, 4, and 5, the show settled into a groove and stayed remarkably stable. It added Kim Delaney as Detective Diane Russell, Simone's love interest and a recovering alcoholic Sipowicz takes under his wing, a role that won her a Supporting Actress Emmy. Justine Michelli joined as Detective Adrian Lesniak, and Andrea Thompson joined as Detective Jill Kirkendall. Now, Gail O'Grady would eventually leave, and the show gradually eased Sharon Lawrence's Sylvia to the background, but the core held, and Smits became a staple of the show, and everyone came to realize the show's real center of gravity was never the handsome ginger lead. It was the angry, balding detective who wasn't even supposed to make it out of the first episode. And man, did the writers put that guy through the ringer. His grown son gets murdered, then he falls off the wagon, then he gets prostate cancer, all of this between seasons 3 and 5, and audiences couldn't get enough. Franz won 2 more Emmys for lead actor during that stretch in 1996 and 1997. But for all the drama on screen, there was just as much drama behind the scenes, and eventually it became too much for one of the show's stars to handle. So from day one, co-creator, executive producer, and head writer David Milch hated being locked into a script he'd written months earlier. So he started rewriting scenes during rehearsals based on how the actors spoke, to the point where he'd frequently toss out an entire day's worth of dialogue and hand the actors fresh scripts minutes before filming. The cast called it Getting Milched, and as the show went on, he basically stopped handing out finished scripts entirely. He'd come onto the set, sit down on the floor, and dictate the day's dialogue out loud while a script supervisor wrote it all down. Franz described it as watching a genius pull miracle after miracle out of thin air, and also as brutally hard. Milch's dialogue jumped all over the place, overlapped, and was a nightmare to memorize cold. And while you can't deny the results, Milch personally won 2 Emmys for his writing, and the show was unstoppable, the actors started to crack. And the first big crack came in season 6, the season that changed the course of the show. At the end of season 5, Jimmy Smits decided not to renew his contract. And a big reason, which he said openly, was that chaotic environment, the last-minute pages, never knowing what you were shooting on any given day. But it was amicable, and he gave the show runway to wrap up his character. And the writers did so with one of the most acclaimed death scenes in TV history in an episode called Hearts and Souls, where he dies of heart failure just after finally marrying Diane Russell, played by Kim Delaney. It's regularly called one of the best hours the show ever produced. TV Guide later ranked it number 30 on its list of the 100 greatest episodes of all time, and Paris Barclay won both an Emmy and a DGA award for directing it. But the big question was, how do you follow that? Who could possibly replace Jimmy Smits? In response, the show made a bet that stunned Hollywood. They replaced him with the kid from Silver Spoons, Ricky Schroder, playing hot-headed detective Danny Sorensen. And when this happened, the entertainment press could not get over it. Everyone was asking the same question: could a former adorable teen idol hold his own on the grittiest, most adult show on television, standing toe-to-toe with Dennis Franz? And it wasn't the only big change in season 6. They brought in Bill Brockchup to play PAA John Irvin, who would stick around for the rest of the show's run, and in the back half of the season, the show killed off Sharon Lawrence's Sylvia Costas, Andy's wife, who was accidentally gunned down in a courthouse shooting. So in a single season, Andy loses his best friend and his wife. Like I said, they put that guy through the ringer. And out of all that chaos and grief, the show took home some major hardware. At the 1999 Emmys, Dennis Franz won his 4th and final Outstanding Lead Actor Emmy. Deborah Monk won Outstanding Guest Actress as Katie, Andy's alcoholic ex-wife. And the show pulled major nominations across the board. And in season 7, the show just kept rolling. It pulled in 15.6 million viewers an episode on average and finished as the 17th most watched show in the country. The Ricky gamble had paid off. The bond between Sipowicz and Danny Sorensen had deepened into a kind of father-son relationship, and they added fresh faces to the cast, namely Henry Simmons as Detective Baldwin Jones, a steady, level-headed presence who replaced Nicholas Turturro's character, and he would end up staying all the way to the finale. The show had proven it could roll with the punches, adapt, and keep delivering the goods, but the real gut punch was about to come. After season 7, David Milch, the engine of the entire show, left. He's been candid that his own alcoholism and addictions were part of it, but he was also just burnt out. The show's mad genius was gone, and the cast just kept turning over. By season 8, the departures were coming fast. James McDaniel, who played Lieutenant Fancy, left, leaving Franz as the only remaining original cast member. Kim Delaney, who'd won an Emmy for the show, left too, and Rick Schroder, partner number 3, asked to be written out so he could spend more time with his family. Season 8 would be his last. And as the old guard cleared out, new faces came in. Esai Morales joined as Lieutenant Tony Rodriguez. Charlotte Ross joined as Detective Connie McDowell, who'd become Andy's next great romance and eventually his wife. And Garcelle Beauvais came aboard as prosecutor Valerie Haywood. And the show, while still drawing strong viewership, dropped out of the top 20 for the first time, down to number 23. And for the second straight season, it didn't win a single primetime Emmy after winning 6 just a few seasons earlier. It was indeed the beginning of the decline. And perhaps knowing that, the showrunners decided to gamble once again. For season 9, they brought in Mark-Paul Gosselaar, yes, Zach Morris from Saved by the Bell, to play Detective John Clark Jr. They also added Jacqueline Oberdorf as Detective Rita Ortiz, who'd become a core detective through the show's final chapter. And whether it was the casting, the writing, or just viewer fatigue after 9 seasons, the ratings dropped hard that season, losing nearly 4 million viewers an episode and finishing as the 31st most watched show in the country. And it didn't stop there. The show fell to 34th and then 51st place in seasons 10 and 11 respectively. And now pulling in fewer than 10 million viewers a night, the writing was on the wall. Season 12 would be the show's last. And instead of going out with a bang, it went out with dignity. The whole season built toward one thing, Andy Sipowicz finally growing all the way up. He takes the sergeant's exam, and by the end of the season, he's promoted to sergeant and put in command of the entire 15th precinct. The loose cannon had become the boss. The finale, titled Moving Day, aired March 1st, 2005, and pulled in about 16 million viewers, the show's biggest audience in more than 3 years. All told, the show ran for 261 episodes and was ABC's longest-running one-hour primetime drama for more than a decade until Grey's Anatomy finally passed it in 2016. And the only actor to appear in every single episode just happened to be the guy who was supposed to be killed off in the first, Dennis Franz. And with that, he basically retired. He played one of the greatest characters in TV history, ranked number 23 on TV Guide's 50 Greatest TV Characters of All Time. He won 4 Emmys for lead actor, and then he simply walked off into a quiet life, just a few years after his original partner finally got his second chance at Hollywood stardom. After walking away from NYPD Blue, David Caruso tried to become a movie star, shooting 2 films back-to-back in 1995. Kiss of Death alongside Nicolas Cage and Samuel L. Jackson, and Jade, written by Joe Esterhaas. And they both bombed. In 1997, tail between his legs, he was right back on network television in a CBS show called Michael Hayes, which was canceled after a single season. It would be 8 years after NYPD Blue before he'd headline another successful network show, starring as Horatio Kane on CSI Miami starting in September 2002, delivering his trademark one-liners while putting on his sunglasses, which became a meme for a decade I used many times. And yeah, he came to regret how he handled his exit. Caruso later admitted his ego had gotten the better of him, that he wasn't mature enough to process sudden fame, and that he badly misjudged his leverage. But really, in hindsight, it ended up working out just fine for both actors. Caruso became a pop culture phenomenon with CSI, and Franz provided a template of sorts for a new breed of leading man. Before Tony Soprano, Walter White, and Don Draper, there was Andy Sipowicz, the deeply flawed, frequently unlikable anti-hero you somehow root for anyway. Just about every prestige TV bad man who came after owes a little something to the balding detective who wasn't supposed to survive his own pilot. If you enjoyed this deep dive, give the video a like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.